Hi, I'm Kelly from Kelly Jones Jewellery. Today I'm going to be showing you how to make these earrings. I've put a list in the description below of everything you'll need to make them, along with links to my Etsy shop where I sell all my finished jewellery and written tutorials. That's kellyjonesjewellery.com, my Instagram and my Facebook page. These are to match the Rosa pendant from the last video. To make these earrings you'll need 0.8mm wire, that's 20 gauge, and I've cut 12 lengths at 7 inches, that's 18 centimetres, and 2 lengths at 6 inches, that's 15 centimetres. You need 0.315mm weaving wire. You'll need about 400 centimetres. I've wound mine onto a bobbin. If you don't have a bobbin, you can just cut lengths as you go. I find if you put your wire on a bobbin, it just stops it all flailing about and it makes it a lot easier and manageable to work with, especially when you're working with the longer lengths. I'll put a link in the description below of where I buy my bobbins. Okay, we're going to need more jump rings than when I first planned. So I've got 2 at 8mm outside measurement and 2 5mm outside measurement. I've got 4 3mm beads and I've got ear wires. The little stones we'll be using, I've got 2 flat-backed cabochons, and these are 7mm. You can use 5, you can use 10. Anything any different size than that, then I'd suggest you change your wire lengths a little bit. And the smaller accent stones, again you can use little cabochons if you want to. 5mm, the easiest really to work with. These are 5mm, and these are cubic zirconias with pointy backs. So you can use a pointy back or you can use a flat back if you want to. I've made my ear wires out of gold filled, because when you're working with copper you want something that's going to match. I like to use sterling silver ear wires, but for copper I always try and make them out of gold filled. And I've just bent it around my pliers and I've hammered that a little bit to make it a bit stronger. Tools, I'll be using my long nose pliers, round nose pliers, wire cutters, and I always have these to hand. These are my nylon flat nylon pliers. I use these for flattening weaves or straightening wires. If you don't have these, don't worry, I just like having these at hand just in case. All my tools are, well, they're Tronex at the minute, because I find that they do last a bit longer. I tend to kill the cheaper ones quite quickly. When you're practicing you can always use the cheaper ones. I've used these xuron pliers in the past. They're quite good. Those are Tweezernose xuron pliers. They're quite sturdy, quite good to use. But I've put links to these in the description below. I am aware some of the links aren't working at the moment and I am looking into that. They are affiliate links, so if you're thinking about buying tools, please use my links. So if you cut all your wire lengths, and then take your wires, we're going to keep the shorter ones to one side because we're going to be dealing with those later on. So of all your 12 lengths that you cut, you're going to need, we'll start with 3. And find the centre point of those wires. Put your thumb in the centre of the wires and we're going to start just to the left of it. So take your weaving wire and we'll start with 3 wraps around that bottom wire. And then we'll go twice around the bottom 2. Come up between those bottom 2. And we'll go twice around the top 2. And we'll repeat that another 2 times. Twice around the bottom 2, up between the bottom 2, and around the top two. So now we're going to take the top wire and we're going to bend it up. I'm going to take my round nose pliers, because when we're doing earrings we want everything to be the same on both of them, so we don't really want to guess anything. I'm going to position it at the base of the round nose pliers. I'm going to bend the wire all the way around it. So we've got a shape, we've got a loop there, and if we use the round nose for the other one then it should be the same size loop. That's my plan. So have all your wires back in a straight line. And now we're going to continue. We'll have 2 wraps around the bottom wire. And now we want to do the same what we just did for the other side of the loop. So we'll come up between, around the top 2 twice, underneath, and around the bottom 2 twice, and we'll do that another couple of times. So I've done the same amount of repeats on this side, and I've finished with 3 wraps around that bottom wire. When you're doing earrings, if you want them to match up, I find it's best to make them both at the same time. So take your other 3 wires and start again, and we'll do this again. So you should now have 2 the same. And I'm just going to press over those weaves to flatten them and keep them nice and tidy. So you want to bend this now right in the middle. That's my middle wrap, just to the left of my pliers. So I'm going to bend just the 3 wires, not the ring. I'll deal with that in a bit. Do you want to put a nice angle on that? And you want that ring, once you've levelled it up, you want it to sit nice and central on there. So you've got a V with the ring at the bottom. Misshape my ring a bit. Now you want to wrap these wires around the stone, so this angle has to be such that your stone just fits in that gap there. Don't worry if you've misshaped your ring like mine, we shouldn't see much of it when we're done. So holding the stone in place, carefully bend the wires around, and you don't want the wires to cross over each other, you need them to stay flat next to each other if you can. And you need a gap at the top and a gap at the bottom. And then when the wires meet at the top, you want to bend them out so they're straight. So you've got this kind of shape. And the stone sits in the middle like that. So have a look at your wires on the sides and make sure they don't cross over each other. And take your weaving wire. I'm going to wrap 3 times around one of the back wires, one of the bottom wires, and then slide that down. And holding it together, I'm going to wrap around all of it, pulling it tightly together. And then take that back wire again, and we'll go 3 times around that wire. And cut that tail end from the beginning. So we need to do this with the other one as well. If we can make them both at the same time, that's how the stone will sit in the middle. So we'll do this with the other one, and we want 2 the same. And as you're making it, keep matching it up to make sure you've got the same angles. So it's all going to be the same as the other one. So at this point, you should have 2 exactly the same. They're still the same. And then in a bit we're going to make them mirror images of each other. So now we need to secure those little stones in there. Turn to the back. And separate your wires on the sides. So that the back wires come over the back of the stone a little bit. And then take your pliers, and where the wire sits next to the stone, we're just going to bend that. So hold it at the top, so you're holding it still at the top and you're holding your stone in. Just going to bend that in. I didn't mean the top to come in that much, so I just bent it back a little bit. I'm going to do the same with the other side. So where that wire there meets the stone, holding it at the top to keep the top still, bend the bottom in. And that will hold it in from the back. Then we need to do that at the front as well. So make sure you've got enough space to be able to grab the wire with your pliers. And where the wire meets the stone, we're just going to bend it in a little bit, holding it at the top so we keep the top still. And on the other side, try and grab it in roughly the same place. They're never going to be the same. You're always going to have slightly odd sides, slightly odd earrings, because that's handmade. We're not robots. So we need to now do that to the other one. So get your other one, get your other stone, and bend your wires to hold your stone in. So we've still got 2 exactly the same process done so far on both. Got our little stones attached in there. Back is more or less like the front as well. So now you want to spread your wires out at the top, so we can see what we've got and get them all laid out next to each other. And the 2 back ones in the middle. Keep the cage straight around the stone. And then just lay the other 2 out next to it on each side. So now looking at all 6 wires, we're going to bend one down out the way. We're going to work on these next 2, so we're just going to move those 3 that way just a little bit. So working just over these 2 wires, we're going to wrap around both wires 3 times. And the bottom wire 3 times. So that's 3 wraps around the bottom wire, 3 wraps around both wires. And we'll do about 10 repeats of that. Keep pushing your weave together as you go. So I've done 10 repeats of that weave. Pulling the weave over at the base. I'm going to scoop that weave over to the left. And make a loop like that. From this point on, the weave changes. So this is the earrings to the Rosa pendant, so it's pretty much the same on that weave now. The design is slightly different to make it more elegant for an earring, so it dangles rather than just sitting like the pendant does. But this weave now is the same, so we go straight over to the other side and we wrap 3 times around that top wire, and then coming up between the 2 wires we come over this wire and we wrap 3 times around this wire. So that's the repeat, that's what we're going to do. And we want to shape this weave so that it goes around the stone and it's going to sit just at the top of that loop there at the bottom. And the top wire needs to scoop around at a slightly bigger angle to sit like that there. So take your time getting those shapes. Of the wires there, and we're going to continue this weave here now that we've started. Try not to pull your wires together as you go, and we're going to carry it on until we get to this center point here, which is halfway. So as you get to this point, you can see that you need to start adding more weaves to this outer wire for it to get around this bend here. So check on the shape of the wires. You've got to keep an eye on that. But we need to add more wraps. We'll add 5 wraps on this outer wire now as we're working. So we'll do 5 wraps on this top wire, and we'll do 3 wraps on the bottom wire so that we can get this weave to come around this bend here. So I've wrapped 5 times on the outer wire, and then I've gone just twice on the inner wire, and then 5 wraps again on the outer wire and twice on the inner wire. And I've done that just to get around that bend there. And now I'll go back to 3 on one side, 3 on the other, until my weave reaches the bottom there. So my weave has now reached the bottom there. So I'm going to cut that weaving wire. And try not to put, if you push these wires together now, you're going to misshape and crumple all those inner wires. So you've got to hold it really still. And I'm going to put these 2 wires, I'm bending just the ends, through the loop. So now we need to do that to the other one. So go and find the other one, and we need to do this weave. If we do it in stages, it's more likely to look like mirror images of each other. If we go ahead and complete this one might look a little bit odd, so we'll do it as we go in. So we've already separated out the 5 wires at the top. We're going to pull one to the side. We're going to work on the next 2. We're going to push these 3 over a little bit and just work on these 3. 2, we're just going to work on these 2, sorry. So bring the wire up between those 2 wires, and I'm working with the weaving wire that's still attached. So come up between those 2 wires. We're going to go around the top wire 3 times, and then we're going to go around both wires 3 times, and that's our repeat. So we need to do that 10 times, but this time we're wrapping 3 times around the top wire and then 3 wraps around both wires, and keep pushing it together as you go. So I've done 10 repeats of that weave. Bend it over at the base, and now we're going to scoop it around the other way. So we're doing a mirror image of our other one. It's not easy to do. I'm happier doing the other way. This way feels a little bit backwards. Do you want your loops to be roughly the same size? If you've counted 10, then they should be the same size. So now we're going to do our weave. So I've come up between, we go over the opposite wire 3 times. Then we go over the opposite wire 3 times. And that's our repeat, and we want to shape this weave so that it goes around the stone. Not quite happy with the shape of that top weave, so I'm just going to have a play around. Shape the wire around, then we shape the outer wire around in a slightly bigger loop. I think the best thing to do is just take your time with it and try and keep matching it up as you go. So you've got the same kind of size gap there. And then we're going to do the repeats that we did before. We'll go 3, 3 all the way down to halfway just before, and then we'll do 5, 2. So we do 5 on the outside, 2 on the inside, and then we'll go back to 3, 3 to finish it off. So 3, 3 at the minute, 3 on the one, over the opposite wire, and 3 on the other side. And don't let your wires come together as you're working. So I've done that weave. As it goes around the bend, I've done the 5 repeats on the outer wire and the 3 on the inner. I think I did 2 right in the middle, and then you go back to 3s as you get to past that bend. We're going to cut off that weaving wire, hold that weave, and bend these wires through the loop like we did for the other one. So now you should have two that are starting to look like opposites of each other. I'm going to take those wires around again to secure them in place there. So holding the big weave firmly, just bending these wires around the ring to secure that weave. I'm going to cut those short, they're already short, and then finish them around the ring. So that's all nice in place. And do that for the other one as well with those two wires. So I've done that to the wires on the bottoms. So I'm going to work on this one, the one that bends around to the right. And I'm going to take these next two wires that sit next to the weave. And that's what I'm going to work on now. So take your weaving wire. And we want the weave to go the same way, so we'll copy this weave. We'll go 3 wraps around the top wire. And push that around to the bottom of the wires. And then we'll go 3 wraps around the both wires. We'll keep repeating that. 3 wraps around the top wire, 3 wraps around both wires. You want about 12 repeats of that. So I've done 12 repeats of that weave. I'm going to cut the tail from the beginning. Gracie's finally gone to sleep, if you can hear her snoring. I'm going to bend it back like we did with the other one. I'm going to make a slightly bigger loop with this one. The other one was 10 and this is 12, so this should sit a little bit bigger. Oops. So now we're just going to carry on with that same weave a little bit further. So I've carried on adding more repeats to that weave. And I'm going to scoop it around to follow the flow of everything. And I'm going to post it through to the back. So I'm just going to add a few more wraps around that one side, that one wire. I'm going to cut that wire. And then holding the weave, I'm just going to bend the ends of the wire through to go underneath the stone. And I want this weave to go around the stone like that. We're going to secure these two short wires now by wrapping them around the weave. So holding the front and the back in place so that I don't misshape anything. want to cut a bit of length off of them. I'm going to just pop them around behind that weave there and secure them around. Holds it all in place. Oops. So I've just pulled those wires up, squeeze them around, and then I'll cut the tips off so that they don't catch on anything. So we'll now do this weave on the other one so that we can keep it all symmetrical, keep it all the same. So you want these two wires, pull the shorter one to the front there, pull that down. You just want these two, the next two, in line after the weave. We're going to do the same as this weave, so we're going to start with 3 wraps around the bottom wire. And then 3 wraps around the both wires. And we're going to do that 12 times so that the loop is the same size as the loop on the other one. So 3 wraps around the bottom wire, 3 wraps around both wires, 12 times. And keep pushing your weave together as you go. So I've done those 12 repeats of that weave. And now we need this to sort of go the same way as that weave in a larger loop. Always easier to do them going this way, I find. And we want to keep matching it up with the other one. So my gap's a little bit bigger on that one. So I need to make that gap a bit bigger on this one. And I just want to let you know that I've recently finished a PDF tutorial on this huge frame pendant. A PDF tutorial is a download from my Etsy shop, and it's got loads and loads of pictures and descriptions, so you go through at it. You go through it in your own time, at your own pace, and it's all there. It's fully descriptive, it's written for a beginner. Obviously you'd have to be an advanced beginner to make this. It's not as complicated as it looks. So just to let you know, that is now available in my Etsy shop. So I'm happy with that. That's about the right shape that I want. And now we're going to continue this weave, doing the same weave, and we want it to come past the stone. So just going to keep weaving that same weave over those 2 wires. So I've continued that weave. Now I'm going to bend it around to go around the stone. I'm going to wrap a few more times around that single bottom wire. cut that wire. And then holding that weave, because I don't want to lose the shape I've just put in it, bend the ends of those two wires and pop them through below the stone. We want it to look like the other one, so it sits over the weave, just over the edge of the weave a little bit. I think I've got a slightly bigger curve in this weave. Not much in it. And then we need to finish off these two wires the way we did with the other one. Just wrap them around the weave and squeeze it all in place to keep it nice and secure. So I've done that, finished off those wires. We just need to finish off these last two now that we've got. So this wire here, just going to scoop around to follow everything, but I'm going to post it, just bending the tip of it above the stone. So get it in place how you want it to be. Hold that together at the top and then bend the wire around. And my wires are very short. I've hardly got any leverage on them at all. So I'll put a note at the beginning. You might want to start with slightly longer wires than me, so you've got more grip on the wires. I'm just bending that around and squeezing it in place. So on this one, it'll be this wire, and we're going to just scoop it around to follow everything. And you want it to sit at the same height, so mine's a little bit lower. It's a bit better. And then here, it's going to go through, so we're just going to bend the end through the top of the stone. There's not much wire to handle. I'm going to have to use my pliers. I've misshaped that a little bit. And then wrap that around the three again like we did with the other one. So I've fiddled with that until it's the shape I want it to be. Now these little outer wires, I'm going to do something similar again. Scooping it around. Only I want it just to sit quite low. Just so it finishes it off there. I'm going to wrap that around the actual neck of the pendant there. So I'm going to put my pliers through just to make a gap down there, and I'm going to post the wire just around that neck part. I'll cut it a bit shorter first. So I just wrapped it around there, if you can see that. Do the same with this one. So that went around that way. So this needs to go around this way. With a nice small loop. It goes around the neck at the back. Push it out a little bit so it sits the same as the other one. Just to be a little bit smaller than that. So I've done that for that one. You can stop there if you want to, or you can add these little stones. So take your little accent stones and the shorter piece of wire, 0.8 wire, which is 20 gauge, and find the centre. And I've done this on a few of my tutorials actually, so you may be familiar with it. We're going to wrap the wire around our little stone. I'm gonna It's always a bit fiddly. It is a bit of a struggle. But it's worth persisting with and practicing with, because you can add these little stones to your pieces. It really does add something a bit special, you know. I'm going to wrap around a few times, and I'm slowly bringing the wire over the front of the stone to trap it in place. Just a little bit across the front. And then I'm going to turn it over. Fiddly little things. So now I've got the back wire, and I'm taking the back wire around the stone, and because mine's pointy, I can just go around and around the stone. If you've got a flat backed one that you're wrapping, then you just need to come over the back of the stone a little bit. You want to aim for 3 wraps, I think. Go around it 3 times. And that's what you want. You want it to all be held in place. And you want to finish so that your back wire, I'm now bending my back wire to come straight up like that. And the front wire is just past the back wire. So that's ideal. Because then I'm going to hold it all together and take this front wire around my back wire. Now, it may pull it out of shape, so you've got to keep an eye on everything as you do it. But I want that wire to go around that back wire. And then I'm going to cut that wire. Squeeze it in place. So I'm just squeezing it around that single wire, so it's not going to move. And then taking my round nose pliers, about halfway, just going to bend that around, put a little loop on the top there. So there we've got ourselves a little crystal that we can dangle. And I'm going to dangle it from the bottom of the earring. So I need to make sure that that's nice and flat. And because the angle is different, I can either twist this so it's at that angle, or you can add a little jump ring between the two. So I'm just going to open that little loop up. I've got 2 pairs of pliers. It's so hard to do everything so close up. I've opened that little ring, and then I'm going to close it again. Hope you can see what I'm doing. A little bit fiddly. I'm sure it's easier to do if you're not behind the camera. So we've got a little dangly addition. It is nice to add little stones if you can, so it's worth practicing that little technique of just wrapping it around, wrapping the wire around it. You could hang it on anything, you could hang it absolutely on everything, in fact. So we need to do that for the other one and the other stone, but we also need to add jump rings and an ear wire, and then we're done. So if I add these now, and then I'll catch up with the other one. So I've added my jump rings and my ear wire, and the idea was that I wanted it really dangly. I didn't want to have the fixed bail like we did with the pendant. I wanted it to be really moving around, and that's what I've achieved. I'm really pleased with that. So I put the bigger jump ring around the higher weave, and I put the little jump ring on the big one, and then I attach the ear wire to the little jump ring so it's at the right angle for it to sit straight when you're wearing it. So I just need to do all that to the other one, and then we'll be done. So I've caught up with that one. I've done the dangly stone, and I've added the jump rings and the ear wires. Now we just need to add our little beads. Take a short length of weaving wire and thread your 3mm bead onto it. Find the centre of the wire, and then I'm going to pop those ends of that wire through the top of the pendant above the stone. So that's where I want the first bead to sit, the top there. And I'm just going to wrap these weaving wire around these wires at the back, just to secure that. You don't have to add these beads if you don't want to. You can stop at any time. So I've wrapped the little wires at the back around the back wires. That's added my top bead. I'm going to add another bead to the bottom the same way. Thread the bead onto the weaving wire, pop both the wires through to there. So you've got your beads sitting in the gap. Attach the other ends of the wires to the back wires. So when you're putting your beads on, get them in place and get them to sit right before you attach it, so that the holes for the beads are at the sides, because you don't want them to sit with the hole to the front. So that's that one done. Now to go and do the same for the other one. So we added beads to the other one as well. Just posting the wires through to the back, wrapping them around that back wire. And I'm really pleased how they turned out. Got proper dangly long statement earrings. Just need to be oxidised now. And I hope you found this tutorial easy to follow. And a lot of these techniques you can use in your other work that you do. When you're sharing your work online, please mention me, a Kelly Jones Design. Really appreciate that. And please don't show pictures of the back or in progress images. If anyone wants to make these, I'd like them to come to my channel and watch it on my YouTube channel. So thanks everybody, and subscribe if you haven't already. Bye!